When we think about civilization, we usually imagine writing, scrolls, books, libraries, alphabets. After all, what's history without documents, right? But what if I told you that some of the most intellectually rich, philosophically deep, and culturally powerful civilizations on Earth pass down their knowledge entirely without writing? Let's take a closer look at how oral traditions, not writing, carried the wisdom of empires, religions, and epics across generations. And in doing so, let's redefine what we really mean by civilized. Writing has long been treated as the ultimate marker of an advanced society. It preserves knowledge across centuries, supports legal systems, and standardizes language across empires. But it's only one method of preserving knowledge. Around the world, many sophisticated civilizations relied, either by choice or necessity, on oral traditions. And not because they lacked intelligence or organization. On the contrary, oral transmission offered unique advantages. First, flexibility. Stories and laws could evolve to meet changing needs. Second, community. Knowledge was shared aloud, strengthening collective identity. And third, resilience. Oral traditions could survive even when writing materials were scarce or destroyed. Now let's look at some powerful examples. In West Africa, griots have long been walking libraries. They're poets, musicians, and historians. Griots memorize and perform the genealogies of kingdoms, the moral codes, and the victories and defeats of their people. They use rhythm, rhyme, and repetition to make knowledge both memorable and emotionally resonant. Griot performances are anything but passive. They include music, drumming, call and response, and improv. This makes the tradition dynamic and alive, not frozen like many written texts. The griot doesn't just preserve history. Griots perform it, passing it from generation to generation. Now let's head to South America. The Inca ruled a vast territory without a writing system. Instead, they used a complex memory device called the quipu. Now, quipus were chords with knotted strings. The type, position, and color of knots recorded numerical and possibly narrative information. They tracked census data, taxes, military service, and agricultural production across one of the largest empires in the ancient world. Quipu reading required specialists trained in their symbolic logic, functioning much like a written language. So this proves that knowledge can be encoded and preserved through systems entirely different from writing as we know it. So why did so many societies maintain oral traditions even when writing was available? Because oral knowledge was accessible. There was no need for parchment or literacy. It belonged to everyone. It was adaptable. Oral stories could shift to reflect new realities. It was emotionally rich. Voice, music, and gesture conveyed meaning beyond ink, and it was communal. Listening together created shared memory. It was also durable. Knowledge could survive where text could not. So it's time to rethink the idea that writing equals civilization. Oral traditions are not primitive. They're highly intentional systems of cultural survival. Nowhere is this clearer than in ancient India, a culture that had writing systems but still chose to preserve its most sacred texts orally for centuries. We're talking about the Vedas, some of the oldest religious texts in the world composed in Sanskrit. The Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, and India's greatest epics, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, were all passed down orally long before they were written. Consider this: the Mahabharata, which contains the Gita, is the longest epic in world literature, over 200,000 lines, more than 10 times the length of the Iliad and the Odyssey combined. And yet, it was memorized and transmitted by scholars and priests for generations. Why? Because oral tradition was sacred. The Vedas are not just words, they are sound, and sound carries divine power. To preserve that sound, Vedic scholars developed one of the most precise oral transmission systems in history. Every syllable had to be recited with perfect pitch and timing. And this wasn't just memory, it was science. And it worked. Modern comparisons of oral and written versions show remarkable consistency. And then there's the language itself, Sanskrit, a classical language known for its grammatical precision. When we treat writing as the only real form of history, we erase the brilliance of cultures that used other methods. The griots of West Africa, the quipus readers of the Andes, the Vedic chanters of India, all show us that wisdom doesn't always come in ink and paper. Sometimes it lives in rhythm, in voice, in sound and silence, in breath of one generation passed to the next. So let's stop asking why didn't they write it down and start asking, what did they know that we've forgotten? If you're curious about Sanskrit's structure and Sanskrit superstar Kalidas, I've made a separate video on that. Check the description for the link. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with anyone who still thinks real history only comes from books. Comment below. Have you ever memorized a poem, song, or chant from your culture? Because wisdom doesn't have to be written, it just has to be remembered. Thank you.